You ready?
Yep, it is 6 o'clock. Like to call a meeting to order on January 6th, February 6th, 2024. I'd like to do a pledge of allegiance. George, can you lead us in a pledge of allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, George. Roll call.
Councilwoman Wadsworth,
Running tardy.
Councilman Sandretto,
Here.
Councilman Reed,
Here.
Councilwoman Alcazar. Here.
Awesome. I'd like to start our workshop discussions. First item is I'd like to hear on the viewpoints of city priorities, things we need to focus on.
Things we need to focus on. Well, the first thing obviously is infrastructure, right? So bar none, the biggest thing we have to do is keep everything operational, right?
Right.
Okay, so we know we've been getting a lot of, at least I have, I don't know about the rest of you, about complaints about traffic. Traffic's a big issue. So one of the pieces we do need to look at is the intersection of 7th and Babs. That was identified by Spink Engineering as a troublesome intersection after doing traffic counts. However, at this particular moment, no other intersections or streets have been deemed at capacity or over. I know that disheartens a lot of our citizens because they seem to think we got too much traffic. But we do need to put that as an agenda item at some point, looking for some sort of resolve there. Now, again, an unpopular statement is that it was suggested by BEFCOG's planners that we look at a roundabout there. That's one piece. Other than that, we need to look at the impacts of the new developments going in and how those are going to play. But we won't know that until those lots are sold and we see the traffic. After that, infrastructure wise, we're working sewer projects through our ARPA funds, which is good. We're working sewer relining project again, thank God. We're going to do chip seal. That's a must. So all of those things, I think we're moving forward fairly well on infrastructure, including the generators at the well sets. The concern, I think the next concern that we're going to have with the implementation of development is going to be sewer capacity. But again, Spink Engineering assures us that that's only at 60% today. And we'll only have to look at trading that up when we're getting around 80% capacity or expanding the plant, which was pre-designed. So I think that's something we need to put on our radar in the long term as a piece 4 or 5 years from now to be sure that we're keeping on top of that capacity level. After that, my priority as a councilman is park infrastructures. And everybody's aware of that. I think I've made it pretty clear. I think the city needs to work on getting those all solidified so that we have community gathering points where families can go and children can go and people can walk and do the things they want to do. My next coupling with that is obviously trails. We're doing a little bit of expansion, but we really need to work forward on that. And when we get down to the final piece, which was kind of partially my idea and morphed into something else, which is the train bridge. I think that needs to be in place. When I originally brought that idea forward, I brought it forward as a twofold piece, not only as a community gathering point, but as a place that we would have a second egress from town, where if we had to evacuate people on foot, we could. If anybody was here at the flood of 96, you'll know that the entire bridge downtown was out. The north end of town, we couldn't travel out of. And our only access to the Tri-Cities or anywhere else was to have to go through Prosser. And we couldn't travel the river roads. We had to go up on the North 40 and snake our way back up there. That has been a issue for me for a long time. I talked with Alan Spink about that and asked him to talk to the county about a second bridge ingress into the Benton City area. I believe that that was done based on what Alan's told me, but I haven't seen any forward movement on such an item. And that would be my priority set from where I stand.
Any comments, additional comments?
Yeah, I kind of want to chime into what Councilman Sandretto had mentioned about infrastructure being a very popular point with the city. As we all know, our city's not going to have much of a choice but to expand. We just have to make sure it's done right, and we have the capacity to do that. I see two big points along with that. Is number one is staffing to meet the community needs. I think we're well into this and being able to kind of nail down a strategic plan for, say, the next 4, 8, and 12-year increments, I think would be a good thing. But at the same time, I'm also thinking that we need to also look at our capital purchases over the next couple of years and being able to get ahead of those before we start paying major bills for repairs or whatever the case may be before we hit that mark. I think we can in department, great engineering, thought ahead, but I do have minor concerns about us being able to handle this as a workplace moving forward, and just making sure we equip our employees and we have adequate employees for what we do going forward.
I was gonna say, I'm probably with Councilman Reed. I said, I think employees is gonna be our biggest thing, is keeping up with our growth and making sure that we're being responsible, along with Sandretto's ideas of making sure infrastructure is keeping up with the development that's coming in.
That's what I agree to. The sewer system has always been, that's something that we want to keep working. We don't want to risk having breakdowns or backflows or anything negative. That's not a good situation to be in because of the health risks. I also do have concerns about if we have to evacuate town. We're kind of in a situation. I wasn't here for the flood of 96, but I was here for the fire of 1999 or 2019, where the fire was coming up over Rattlesnake, and I was stuck in traffic with people coming in and out. And I've been stuck just on my daily commute to work in and out of town. It gets backed up at that roundabout. And when you have one person make a bad choice, then we're stuck.
Roundabouts, ugly.
And that's not a good thing. That's going to be a very bad thing if that happens and we get stuck here. Then people are going to panic, and it's not going to be good. So that's one of the things that I always concerned about. And I see the south part on the south of 82 that there's land there, and I feel we should use it and not just do what we want to do right now, but look and see, okay, we want to put this in. Let's put it somewhere where it can grow and expand out, and there's space for that.
Okay. Thank you.
And I guess I would just kind of go off of that. I know I've talked to Skylar Rude before about our bridge that we have currently right now, that people cannot come across it if they have a wheelchair or even pedal bikes and stuff like that. I think this is really important as we look to develop the other side, that the access for people who are not necessarily able to walk, but have strollers or wheelchairs and things like that, actually having a walking path or an extension to the bridge that we currently have right now, so they're able to get across, especially if there is an issue and we have to flee. The ones on foot will definitely need to be able to get across, so.
That bridge is bad news, in my opinion.
I was actually going back to the conversation about the roundabout. I was looking at some statistics. for all intents and purposes, there has been one benefit to having that traffic circle there is the injuries from accidents have severely decreased. The ones that are happening aren't actually happening in the traffic circle. It's as they're coming out of the traffic circles, we've got a lot of people releasing out of the traffic circle at a high rate of speed. And that's what's causing the fewer injuries that we're having. But yes, there are still injuries. One of my other concerns with that traffic circle, as we've seen a couple of times in the past year, even, it's not really set up for commercial vehicles at all.
Mm-mm.
They're running into the soft gravel and into the ditches and
Coming in too fast.
water holes. Yep.
And I agree. I know we've talked about the roundabout at Seventh and Babson. I like roundabouts. I know how to drive through them. Not everybody does. My concern is if we did go with a roundabout, would we wind up in a situation like when West Richland, where they put in a roundabout and then how many years later they pulled it out and put in stoplights. So I don't want to make that decision to do a roundabout and then find out after that expense that it wasn't the best alternative.
So the problem with this traffic light is the expense of maintaining it. And a city like West Richland, who has small numbers, has to contract with the service typically. The city of Richland spends millions of dollars annually on
Mhm.
their staff for repair and upkeep. The only reason that roundabout got pulled down is because traffic increased so bad through there that it exceeded that roundabout's capacity. I don't know, and Mr. Spink here, or Alan Rainey here could probably give us a better.
Akana.
Akana. I'm gonna say, you missed
You
the
know.
last meeting. It's Akana.
He could probably give us a better idea of what the traffic counts were at the roundabout, and I don't think they were approaching critical levels for even changing that.
Excuse me, so it was on traffic
Bombing
counts
range.
At the roundabout,
at the roundabout? No, the state said there, there was nothing there that,
it was good.
yeah.
Yeah. So I think we're in good shape if we were to put a roundabout at Seventh, but I guess right now we gotta talk about what the prioritizing factors are, right? And that's where you want to get to. So infrastructure sounds like everybody's good with that one as number one. Staffing sounds like number two. Quality of life issues, number three. Parks, paths, things like that. Anybody?
I think parks and stuff are kind of up there too. I mean, we gotta make sure that we're.
Yeah, but in order.
Yeah.
So number three. So that's kind of our priority set.
Okay. Anything else?
No,
Okay, next item. I would like to consider hiring a building inspector. Give you some rough ideas. In 2023, we spent about let's see, 64 plus, well, basically 30. We spent $94,000 hiring services. 2022, we spent 104,000. This year in January alone, we spent $19,863. And it would take, it would move Jenny back to 100% code enforcement and having a building inspector on staff to support George. And it's probably going to be about a $90,000 to $100,000 position. The fees coming in would more than fund it from the inspections. Plus we'd have something left over, but we're going to be on pace this year to have about a $200,000 to $240,000 cost for building inspections.
I got a comment.
Okay,
go ahead.
okay.
So, and I know you, Jenny, with the city, that you keep calling it a building inspection, but just to clarify, I believe you're stating to replace Northwest codes, so you're not just only looking at an inspector, you're looking at a plan reviewer. I suggested also making sure that person was qualified to be a building official, which we currently, do not have. And so that would be looking at building official, plan reviewer, your permit tech, your inspector. So you're looking at getting somebody that's qualified to do all of that, right? So it would be a considerable salary on that, just for clarification.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
I do have two comments towards that, actually. I think it's something that we need to look forward to. I want to make sure our fee scale is adequate also.
Okay,
So maybe if we could take a quick review of that.
okay.
The second part is there anybody have any knowledge in what type of insurance we're gonna need? Since we're gonna start the
Insurance.
internal
I think
inspections?
WCIA, if they charge us more,
Mhm.
might be negotiable.
Gotcha.
Most cities have an inspector of that sort. And you forgot fire inspection is something else they're gonna have to do.
Which would be in the inspection side.
Um,
Yeah, we're talking somebody covering all of that
Mhm.
for us. not
Yeah.
just the inspection.
George, you shared a comment with me about your city of Pendleton experience. You want to share that?
Good evening, George Kress, city planner. When I spent 5 years with the city of Pendleton. We had a full-time building inspector, electrical inspector, and a great need for a inspector who works with the fire department or had that capability to take a look at fire inspections. At that time, our fire department, which we had 22 people with the fire department, and they didn't have that capacity. Our building inspector was overloaded. And we handled probably 300 housing permits at that time, and he was overloaded.
That was 305 years.
Yeah, we had a lot of other types of work, though, that he was involved in. He was very good at help train city employees on safety issues
Mhm.
regarding to building and stuff. He was wonderful, adding capacity for the city over there moving forward. They brought in probably $500 to $1 million a year in fees that he was involved in. He was busy all the time.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other comments, insights?
Well, if you want my comment on it, I'm okay with it. I've been watching ABHL and code inspection and a couple other line items where an on-staff person is probably our best choice, to tell you the truth. It also gives us a lot of direct oversight. And that's important, I think.
I will work on the fee schedule review and we'll get an answer on the insurance question. One other item I've been exploring for the last month is a tax on the rock quarry. It would be $1 per ton of product that they ship. It would give us, they average 500 yards of concrete going out per day, which is 1,000 tons of concrete going out per day. Then they have about another 300 tons on average of stuff going out every day. A rock quarry tax is going to give us somewhere between 25 and 30 grand a month. Basically enough if we did a 15-year note for a $4 million city hall and dedicated it towards that, we could fund a city hall.
Mhm. You won't hear me complain on the idea.
And we have precedents for it.
Yeah, I know I can, excuse me, I can talk a little bit about some of the requirements. There's quite a few hurdles that we'd have to jump through to do it. It would be a business and operations tax. And so anytime cities do a business and operation tax at the city level, at the local level, it goes through the process. You do a model ordinance, it has to comply with that, as well as then after it goes through council, then it would be subject to referendum. So, and that's something that that's why it's not fairly common. We did look at Granite Falls. That seems to be the one most on point that we were able to find after speaking with the mayor, and they currently are the ones that there was some debate about whether this type of tax it falls under what's referred to as an extraction tax. So, and depending on, and it's not clear exactly how you would measure it. One of the ways, obviously, that the mayor just discussed would be be an option. There are other options that you can do. And one of the things that we were able to find through Department of Revenue was that it looks like Granite Falls, they're on this for a local P&O tax, but yet all their line items are empty for manufacturing, retail services, wholesale. And then there's a double asterisk that refers down here. Granite Falls repealed its B&O tax for all businesses other than extracting. So that's why they don't fall under extracting as a separate, they don't have a separate column for that. So it looks like they don't have a tax, but they actually do. So, but yeah, it's not super common at the local level. There is some concern potentially about either federal or state preemption. I don't know if that's something that that was a concern that MRC mentioned that could be in the
MRC, one of
Yeah.
their examples they supplied was the city of Seattle is charging a tax on the weight of ammo sold in retail stores and city limits. They're also charging a tax on the weight of soft drinks sold in Seattle. And that passed muster with the Washington State Supreme Court.
Yeah, so it looks like from that there obviously could be some kind of challenge, but you never say never. But it looks like the scales are tipped in the favor of this being something that you can do at the local level, and it's going to take quite a bit of hurdles to get through. There's this intersection between having to use this model ordinance that we pulled out, and it's quite in depth. So we would have to go through that process and then follow up with the referendum, which, you know, that's not free either. But depending on when you do it, it matters. So how much it costs. So, but that would be something that sounds like it would be subject to referendum, which for those that aren't familiar with that, we haven't adopted the quote powers of initiative and referendum locally. You can, but we haven't done that, or the city hasn't done that. But this is separate apart from that. You would still have to hold a referendum, even though you don't have that for your other ordinances. This is one that by state law has its own. So it would have to go through that process. And just so folks are aware, it's the same thing as kind of an initiative, except the legislative body takes action first, and then it goes into effect subject to the referendum. So after the vote of the general election, or at the registered voters of the city of Benton City would have to vote on it. So after that, then it becomes effective. So it's kind of the opposite of an initiative, which doesn't exist until the vote. So anyway, yeah, so it would take some doing, but sounds like,
You're the man to do it.
oh boy, you got that.
And I'm all in favor.
Idea.
My question, are we talking about the one over there on Central Washington asphalt?
Yes.
So does it matter that half of it's in and half of it's out? Cause it looks,
All the retail and business offices in that are inside. And they have one little corner that sits out of their offices. And then we have a city business license with them.
And to be clear, it wouldn't be a specific tax related to that particular subscriber or I don't know what we would call those folks.
It would be an inquiry.
It would be anybody.
Mhm.
And so now if they just happen to be the only one, then that's how it goes. But no, it would be a general tax rate.
obviously it will probably be the only one because we don't really have anywhere else in city limits that offers this. So I just want to make sure that we're not targeting just for certain reasons,
No,
you know,
absolutely.
and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I'm all for it. All for it.
Okay.
I like the idea. I don't like debt. I have issues going into debt. And the more we can do and have it paid without having to go into debt, the more comfortable I feel
Mhm.
about it.
Your opinion. Jennifer?
I mean, I think it's definitely something that we can take a look into and kind of weigh the pros and cons and see where we can get some, you know, input on it. I think this is just the beginning steps of it, figuring out what we can and can't do. So, yeah, I think there's always room for movement.
Okay. We'll start going down that road. I've put together I had solicited proposals on our utility rate study. Reason being, and I played with it, our utility rates are significantly under our two closest cities nearby, significantly. Playing with the raw numbers, we're not covering our utility overheads. And to move with a rate increase, it's going to take a study in place to move forward with that. There was a recommendation from AWC to use FCS. There's two proposals there from them. One is an initial rate study, and the other one is a rate study that projects out a number of years where we need to be each year. There's also a proposal from McKenna. My favorite is towards FCS. I'm gonna let George comment, as George has experience with FCS more so than I do. He's worked with them before. And there's great recommendations out there for them. You wanna share your experiences working with them?
George Kress, city planner. My past experience with FCS, we personally used them when I was with the city of Forest Grove. I was with them for 7 years, and I was with their utilities group. FCS came in to take a look at our electrical rates that we charge customers. We also had one study done on also sewer and water. And what I was impressed with them, they have a vast amount of experience with other municipalities around the Pacific Northwest in Oregon and Washington. They were very understandable. They made very good presentations to the public and at town hall meetings. They took a look at the various service categories. And what I mean by that is for residential groups, for commercial, industrial, to see what they're actually bringing in on the way of revenues versus expenses. So they really took a look at the holistic as well as capital planning for 5-year, 10-year, 20-year outlooks. So they really present a holistic look at the needs of the city in the way of providing services and how much would be both politically, I guess, amenable to the people on the way of rate structures. So that was very helpful.
Thank you. There's from FCS, there's an initial proposal to just do a basic rate study, and then there's another proposal to do a projected study out. So there's two proposals there. Canada's proposal has both of them together. I looking for comment. We are not collecting enough revenue as a city. It's affecting our staffing levels and that. And then this is an area that needs to be looked at.
Are you referring to our water and sewer?
Water and sewer.
Did we ever get all the accounts paid for? Because I know that we had some late. We did, everybody's paid up and current.
Okay, so you got a big can of worms here. And I'm gonna be the guy that steps up and says, the first thing the citizens are gonna come at us with is, I can't afford it now. We're
That's
in an
correct.
inflation crisis.
Mhm,
We have a certain number of fixed income
mhm,
individuals and a certain number of state funded
Mhm.
folks. That being said, there has to be a midpoint, right? And we have to find that midpoint. I know a lot of people tell me they love being in Benton City because it's cheaper than anywhere else to get water and sewer and things like that. They may hate it for other reasons, but they love it for that. I don't know that we currently have, and staff can shed light on this. Do we have something for people of indigency? Those seniors that are on fixed
The
income?
seniors we do.
We do.
So as long as we have programs like that in place and they can utilize those, I don't have a problem moving forward with rate study. Nor the allocution after the fact. You say there's two proposals and maybe I missed it. I saw only two costs, one from Akana and one from these guys. For 28K versus 48K. Is there on their second proposal, is there?
Yeah,
additional
there's one at 23.6 on the, other one was 29.9.
Okay.
Here,
We have it.
okay,
So we're gonna be slightly less than if we go with Akana.
right.
Um,
The disadvantage is Akana can get on it right now. FCS is out 3 to 4 months. But their expertise is pretty incredible.
well, and so I have to weigh that in my own mind, right? And like I just gave you my verbal up front, what my concerns are is the citizenry. I can wait 4 months to start the
Okay.
process.
Okay.
Is it good that we wait and we lose out on potentially changing revenue stream? Probably not as a fiscal choice,
Mhm.
but as a humanitarian choice, I think it's probably the best, especially with our current economic climate. To give as much buffer time as possible.
Mhm.
And I know I got new Akana folks in the room, but I
They already
don't,
know.
I don't know nothing, if you will,
Yeah.
about their experience in this. Obviously, we hear that
Mhm.
AWC recommends FCS. We hear Georgia's testimony to such. I, it's a couple $1,000s extra. And Akana is already overloaded here as it is with us. I don't have a problem throwing the bone out to FCS.
One comment that's important and is a little bit alluded to in our audit. We are estimating our numbers to try to separate out the government side of it, which is streets and that, from utilities. My gut opinion is we are using our street side right now to subsidize utilities. And if that was picked up in a detailed state audit, we would have a challenge.
Yeah, and that should never be happening.
Right?
We need that definitive separation. We've talked about these things and I'm sure I'll hear something from somebody when I say this, but there needs to be 3 departments. There needs to be the general department that covers, parks, rec, anything, streets, those sorts of items. There needs to be a water person or 2. And there needs to be a sewer person or 2.
Mhm.
Maybe 3. I don't know, depending on their status. But they all need to be paid out of separate banks. They all need to be separated. And this is your job task, and this is what you work on.
Mhm.
But that's my opinion.
Okay.
Anyone else?
I guess is that this other company, are they gonna be here in person? Are they
They will do-
remote?
They will do, some of this by a phone, some in person. Presentation will be in person.
I guess I'm trying to look at the $20,000 for the financial plan and rate forecast for water utility and sewer utility, and the other one is, I guess I'm not seeing review results with city. Prepare draft and final cost allocation plans. I'm guessing that's what they're referring to is $6,420.
Mhm.
So I'm just trying to figure out what the difference is between the two to make.
One is a projection going forward. Projecting our rate needs, forecasting out over the next few years what they need to be each year based on our projected overhead and what we need to do. And taking a look at us and giving us a recommendation. The other is just an immediate photograph of where we're at and where our rates should be and giving us a model. It also gives us the advantage we wanted to use their model and try to execute going forward.
Okay. I guess, so they're different in a way.
They're different. They're two different studies.
So how do you compare the two? When making a
Acana
decision?
has both of this. Acana used all the same information. I give them all the information except the pricing that FCS gave us for them to look at and base their proposal. So
Gotcha,
the
okay.
proposals should be identical. Nathan's nodding his head yes.
Yes, that's correct. This includes the forecasting.
I think
So-
everybody's waiting to hear from the rest of the people.
Oh.
in the room.
I was gonna ask, is there a total for Akana? Like on. We have the total for the FCS,
And then in the
Yeah.
back.
It's on the
so,
last sheet.
right, we have the totals for them, but is there a total estimate for Akana?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
in there. It's
It's-
48.5, I think.
Where are you seeing that? That's what I was.
Let me
wondering.
find it.
That's paying it.
$48,550 invoiced monthly.
The final proposal did not break out the pricing for.
I see it now,
but
okay.
It's under,
I see
item
it.
number 3, cost proposal.
Yes, I got it now, thank
Yeah.
you. That's what I was looking for.
Cash flow wise, it does help putting this off till about June or July. Okay. Well, it's okay. Next council meeting, we'll bring a resolution forward for FCS.
I'm okay with that. It's the other three that are pondering real deep on
Mhm.
this.
Can I speak for Akana briefly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds like this is FCS's specialty and what they have the experience in, and I understand that. And if the council chooses to go that way, obviously there's no hard feelings or anything. With that, we can start now, we can start later. If council would want to delay starting, that'd be better for us with the current workload that Benton City has right now. We do have experience in this with other cities, not personally, but we have a large team. Akana is an organization of 170 people. So we have a large team with planners, previous city officials that have experience with doing this type of thing. And I can get a resume if council would like to see something like that, but I doubt our resume is as extensive as FCS. So that's our 2 cents. Willing to help however you guys would like, but
Don't think we don't love you.
Thank you, because that was
I'm gonna
my
need a-
concern. I'm like, how can we talk about this with them sitting right
yeah,
there?
I'm gonna need a group hug later. So no hard feelings, whichever way you guys decide to go, but just want to let you know where we're coming from.
I appreciate you being honest and saying that they do have more experience. That gives us an idea as well. I appreciate that.
Yes, it looks to me like that's what they do as a specialty. They're a very,
Okay.
very targeted, specific organization. That's what they do. We are very more rounded.
Right.
We have a lot of experience in a lot of things. but this is not our targeted specialty.
Okay.
We have experience in it, but probably not as much as they do.
As much as them, okay.
And we would be the team spearheading it here, so you guys would see more of us. than we do now.
I think the mayor is looking for a response from everybody.
I'm fine with looking at FCS. You said that financially it's best for us to maybe put that off a little bit anyway. So I could see getting it on the schedule and then in a few months, then. And I appreciate the fact that are taking into consideration those that are on a fixed income, our senior citizens, because that is a concern. Every time fees go up, I don't want to feel like I'm responsible for somebody that can't afford food.
Mhm. That is a concern.
and-
Our other challenges, a concern is knowing that we're legally compliant in our budgeting and our expense processes, which we currently are a little bit of throwing a dart at the dartboard, and
Mhm.
this should give us some preciseness. And the other side of that is, and I gotta agree with Councilman Sandretto, I really am, they may give us a major recommendation for a rate increase. I'm really not interested in a torn feather party that I'm the store attraction.
It's a new mayor, get him.
Although Diana will be down there with the feathers going, I need some more feathers. What do you think, Bill?
I concur.
Okay.
Yeah, I have no issue
Okay,
to looking
okay.
into it. No, I think
Okay, awesome.
path forward.
Next little item, West Richland assesses a storm drain fee assessment of $7.50 per account. Is something that we could go forward fairly quickly with and put it in a funding account to fund a street sweeper.
Where would that be assessed at? Would it be assessed?
It
on
would
the-
go out with the utility bills.
It would be
Sewer.
sewer or water?
No, it would just state on there like West Richland does. It says storm drain fee.
So one of the things that we'd have to do is create, under the statute, we'd have to create a separate utility. So it would be now our stormwater utility, and then it could go out and be billed, go out with the same bill. But again, we were trying to do some research. It's funny, we started digging into West Richland because the mayor put us onto that as the kind of the best kind of starting point example. And theirs goes back quite a ways, and then we got as much as we could without having to ask one of their folks to go to storage unit, which I didn't think would put us in good favor over there. So the long and short of it is, it looks like they went through a pretty extensive process. It looks like that most folks do a rate study to come up with that as well. So I don't know if that's something that we're talking about doing. I didn't see, one of the concerns, obviously I always have is, and try to remind folks is, when we're in government, the first question is, where's our authority? How do we have the authority to do that? And I know we have the authority to create a utility, a stormwater utility, but I wanted to know what is the requirement for the rate study, right? I mean, you need to be able to have this reasonable connection to show that what you're charging is actually, in fact, reasonable. So was there some kind of statutory requirement to have some kind of rate? I don't know if we can basically pull comps as the mayor's referred to in terms of West Richland. So I don't know what that dance would look like. It looks like it's pretty informal in terms of being able, I shouldn't say informal. It looks like it's pretty expedited is probably the better way to say it. It doesn't look like it's that big a deal or that certainly unusual. I mean, it's pretty shocking that we don't have a stormwater utility at this point, with the size of the city and with obviously what we have to do, what the city has to do to be able to provide the service. I mean, you're providing it whether you're charging for it or not.
And we have been, over the years, we had city maintenance people out with a backhoe and
Oh, yeah.
shovels cleaning along the roads.
Oh, yeah.
So I hear what you're saying. And I don't want to pay any more money. I really don't. But in that same token, I really don't want to have to go out and shovel my own sewer grate every year like I have to, because the water's not draining. And it's weird that stuff piles up on top of those. So in the long term, when we start talking about this, I've had the pleasure of, as a firefighter with this fire district here, going out in the middle of storming weather and having to pull the grates at the corner of Babs and 14th because they're clogged. Whereas with proper maintenance, with the street sweeper and regular routine cleaning, as long as that does get done, I think it's a benefit to all the citizens. Because that water was backing up and towards their houses and so forth and so on. That's property damage that we can avoid and insurance claims. So I really don't have a problem moving forward with it. Now, if we do need to get a rate study, that might be something to look at the long term. How many hours are we going to invest in that? How much is the cost of the street sweeper? How many years are we going to divide that cost over? And how many residents do we have? And will that go down dependent on the number of residences we get, or will that stay the same? Or go up?
It gets us close to a monthly payment, but not quite. You get that on.
Mhm.
Yeah, certainly not unusual. I mean, we're kind of last ones
Yeah.
to the dance.
We keep struggling with this street sweeper cost and like, it has me totally perplexed and trying to find a solution. This is one of the few that I can come up with to start moving on.
No, I don't think it's an unreasonable thing. Again, like I said, we have to be mindful of what's out there and who we're dealing with and what we're dealing with. But as long as we have mechanisms in place to cover like elderly folks and such, I'm okay moving forward with those sorts of things, because the rest of us, and I say that and I try to make it not sound like we're separate, but the rest of us with incomes and so forth, we need to do our part to make the city appropriate. You know, one of my pet peeves walking the streets of Benton City is having to duck out of the way of branches, right? But every person has that responsibility to maintain their property to a degree that allows people to use public sidewalks. We have a responsibility to make sure we're not flooding people out. We're giving them clean drinking water and we're removing their sewage, as well as giving them safe ingress and egress from the city. So, yeah, I'm all for it.
And again, I don't know, because obviously this isn't something we've done before. It doesn't look like it's going to be too difficult to kind of walk through, but it seems like a lot of the materials that are in conjunction with these rate studies and maybe Nathan knows more about this than I do, but seem to be coinciding with doing a low income senior rate. I don't know if that's, I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't know if you really need a rate study or if that's the thing that the rate study really helps, is to be able to know what that is so that you can set those rates for lower income folks. So I just don't know what that connections, they just seem to be going together every time we come up.
We can look at our current exemption where we give the discount for certain households and that, and maybe move it over. That's just a suggestion.
Yeah, it sounds like it's pretty common. So.
That would fall in line with what Councilman Sandretto said.
I'm also curious, I know there's people outside of the city limits that have the city sewer. How are they gonna respond? Because they don't even have a vote for council members and stuff. And they are paying their bills now, those that were not, that's happening, okay.
Well, I think even though I say it,
Yeah,
it
I'm
relates
watching
to
the
sewer,
numbers.
I think it's not gonna be part of the sewer bill. It's just gonna be a separate utility cost.
Right.
And they won't have that. They're only gonna have the sewer cost, which already I think is their connection rate's higher because they are outside the city limits.
Oh, okay.
We okay there? Because
Yeah,
I'm pushing on time. Park impact fees have been a discussion recently. And because of some of the definitions, and there's been debate on the ambiguity of it and what it means. Eric's worked to help clarify it. I would like to consider a park impact fee of $990 per residential house, with $330 per bedroom in an apartment or duplex, $660 for 2 bedrooms, and a maximum of $990 for the duplex with more bedrooms. It makes it more defined, more precise. We're currently, 10 cents a square foot on a development, and a penny a square foot just on a house going in on a lot.
Lynn,
Can
can
I
I clarify that?
What?
It's not 10 cents a square foot.
It's a tenth of an acre.
It's a tenth of a square foot at fair market value
Right,
of the property.
right,
So, just to clarify,
Right.
it is
Right.
1/10 of a square foot at fair market value.
Right.
So if somebody has a development of 10
Mhm.
acres, that's 1 acre
right,
at fair market value.
right. And we're having a challenge on the definition when that fair market value is determined.
As it's read now, it reads a prorated amount. So that, to me, the prorated definition gives the assumption that it's pre-development
Mhm.
prior
It's not
to being
defined.
developed.
Yeah, we've not defined it.
Okay. I'm a parks guy as much as the next guy. But I think one of the things we need to do is look what's happening in West Richland and Prosser. Because they're gonna be our competition for building.
Prosser is a $965 fee right now, park impact fee for residents.
Okay. And what's West Richland doing?
West Richland is requiring the developers to fully put the park in, which we have not been doing. We're just been getting a bare piece of dirt.
Yeah, that park impact fee is in lieu of a park,
Mm-hmm.
right? Okay. If Prosser is doing 965, I think we should compete with them. But, you know, you're talking pennies, really, $25. Because if a developer is looking at different properties, they're gonna compare all the apples to apples.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, my opinion is we should be $20 cheaper than Prosser, because then we look more favorable. That's kind of looking at every developmental piece that we have, you know, our fee schedule and all that. The more that we compete with those jurisdictions and go higher than them, is the greater chance that we're gonna see people not want to build here.
You know, that puts us within, we would be $35, no, $25 more than Prosser at $990.
Yeah.
But it makes the math easy when you go down to 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms. Like apartments and duplexes.
Yeah,
And we are closer to Tri-Cities. That's a selling
What?
point. I said we are closer to the Tri-Cities. That could be a
Mhm.
selling point
Yeah.
for us.
And I think the effect of West Richlands, well, West Richlands requiring of a developer is far greater than that, requiring them to develop a full facility with all amenities. We need to come back and revisit, we can.
I guess I have a lot more questions, I guess, trying to weigh out both sides of it. You know, I know we're up against the clock right now tonight, but
yeah, let's bring that back and.
I was
have
gonna say,
further
Let's bring it
discussion.
back. Okay.
yeah,
No problem. It's not critical. We'll bring it back. I've got enough time. I would like, not Nathan on the hot spot, I'd like to talk to him about what we're talking about, the old city hall and the abatement grant, what we're looking at doing there and how long that will take.
Yes. So, just to give you an update, that's the Department of Commerce grant that we had gotten for approximately $300,000 for the asbestos abatement and demolition of City Hall. In speaking with the grant manager, we can request a change in scope for that. It has to be facilities related. So with that, I've been doing some investigation on the maintenance shop, because there's been discussions about need for a break room. need for storage for large equipment. And meeting with the maintenance staff and some of the city staff, the consensus comes to putting in a roughly 40 by 100 pole building / steel building, partially enclosed, partially heated for some of the equipment, and then converting roughly 600 square foot of space in the existing shop to a break room and some office space for the staff. That would meet the requirement there to have an adequate break room for the staff, give them running water, heated and cooled area. And then also give a place to store the large equipment, because right now they store, what has to be in a heated area. Right now they're borrowing the fire department for one piece of equipment, and one is in the shop, which gives them no room to work in the shop. So starting to run numbers, this is pretty preliminary, but the goal would be to prioritize the whole building for the 300,000 if we could, and if there's any extra funds, allocate the rest of that to do the break room conversion, or at least a phase of the break room conversion. Maybe get the walls up and get the mini split in.
You're putting a grant request, working on that. Time frame.
Yes, so my goal is to have the change in scope form completed by the end of February. And then it will have to go to legislature for approval. So
Okay.
still working with the specialist on that time frame, but that would be what we'd like to do there.
Might as well try.
Okay. And we're not exactly certain how quick we will have approval back from the state. So we're gonna have to, keep the for sale sign off the old city hall until we have this in place.
Okay.
But it keeps the grant money and we can use it.
Yes, the conversations with the grant specialist makes it sound like this is more of a formality. The funds are awarded, they're sitting there. It's just, as long as legislature will approve, spending it on A instead of B, there should be no issue there. We just got to make sure that we've got our ducks in order. We've got some decent numbers so that when we get this request, we're not coming back saying we now don't have enough money to do what we wanted to do. So that's what I'm putting together. So it's an adequate and a comprehensive application.
Any questions for Nathan? Okay. Okay, any other questions? Okay, we'll adjourn the workshop session and try to convene here back